AORTIC volunteers who wants to be part of this conference, the AORTIC networking meeting in ASCO, and also we have that in AACR. So we have two major in-person events: the AACR AORTIC meeting, networking meeting during AACR. That's in April. And I think that's in San Diego. And then the other one is going to be ASCO here in Chicago. So anybody who is willing to be part of the coordination of this event, please let me know. Or if you want to present something or you want to talk about something, please let me know. Or you want to talk about your research work, especially if it's not accepted in ASCO and you really want to still present it for the congregation, please let us know. So it's 5 minutes past the hour. So this month and kicking off this 2026, I hope everybody had a very wonderful holiday. I did. I just came back from Africa. I came back from Nigeria too. I hope that everybody had a wonderful holiday and we are all energized for 2026. So this month we have Fox Chase Center, Cancer Center, the ones that are having the floor this for the hour. And the title of the session today is can you please put up the oh, I don't know why I'm not saying that. Can you just put it up? So we have the title of the session is going to be the African Caribbean Cancer Consortium is going to, and they're going to be talking about driving cancer research equity across the United States, Caribbean, and Africa. And the moderator for this session is Dr. Kamil Rajan. Thank you very much for today, for joining us today. And she is an associate director for the Cancer Disparity Research and Research Integration Office of Research Initiative. And she's also the professor of Cancer Prevention and Control Program at Fox Chase Center. So she's heavily NIH funded, and she is a PI of the Cancer Prevention Project of Philadelphia. That's the CAP3. And she has multiple projects that she's doing, and also she's a member of the Jamaica Diaspora Northeast Health Sector. So please join me in welcoming Dr. Kamil Rajan, who will be taking over the session from now. Thank you very much, Kamil and Dr. Kamil, for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me. It's a pleasure. I'm going to be presenting today along with one of my AC3 co-leaders, so I'll take a little bit of time to introduce him. He is Dr. Samuel Gathere. He is a distinguished senior clinical research scientist and Division of Head and Neck Diseases at the Center for Clinical Research at Kenya Medical Research Institute, KEMRI. Dr. Gathere is a head and neck surgeon, and he is well trained not only in surgery, but also has training in cancer control. He received a diploma in cancer control from the National Cancer Institute in DC and has done a number of other epidemiology trainings. Dr. Gathere is our sub-Saharan African leader for the African Caribbean Cancer Consortium, and he leads several collaborative research initiatives across Africa, and he will be co-presenting with me today. So I'll ask him to put his video on, if possible, so that we can all see him, and I will begin share my slides and go right into the presentation. Share screen. Please confirm that everything is projecting okay. Right, so today we're talking about the AC3 and just would like to provide a brief overview of cancer disparities and sort of just to kind of give a little bit of a baseline as to how the consortium came to be. So we know in the United States there are has been longstanding mortality disparities in cancer, and this just gives you a snapshot of the disparities that occur according to race. And for our Black and African American population, we tend to have a higher mortality rate compared to all other racial ethnic groups. And over time, this gap, while there has been some notable decline in cancer mortality, the gap between the races still continue to date. So this persistence of cancer disparities is an issue that we all know that we need to address. In terms of specific cancer sites, the level of disparities and the extent of the disparity does vary. But for the most part, we consistently see for some cancers, lung cancer, colorectal, prostate, breast, you see a quite a big difference in mortality rates compared to Black and white patients. So when you think about this from a global perspective, this slide really just gives us an overview of what the mortality rates look like in comparison to the mortality rates reported in sub-Saharan Africa.
Put
And
full screen, please.
I'm sorry, you're not seeing the full screen?
It's not in presentation mode.
Okay,
So make
so
it
that means I need to switch. Okay, apologies. Let's start again. Sorry about that. Is that full screen?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Okay,
Thank you.
all right. So this chart, both charts showed comparisons of mortality rates for the United States in comparison to sub-Saharan Africa on the left, and the mortality rates in comparison, the US compared to the Caribbean on the right. And what it shows is for those bars that you see that are in orange, for each of those cancer types, the mortality rate in sub-Saharan Africa is higher than that of the United States. So we see that observed for cervical, prostate, breast, liver, or esophagus, ovary, and so on. And similarly for the United States, we see some of the same cancers arising where mortality rates are significantly higher in the Caribbean compared to the US. And the red bars represent the reverse, where rates are higher in the US compared to sub-Saharan Africa or the Caribbean. So, I guess I provided this slide just to show that cancer disparities is not a simple thing. It's very complicated. And there are lots of different ways that disparities exist. And as we continue to look at the data and the epidemiology, we have to obviously prioritize how we focus our work to be able to address and reduce and ultimately eliminate disparities that exist in these populations. Okay, so how did the AC3 come about? I wanted to provide a little brief history. It's actually been 20 years that AC3 has existed, and it occurred 20 years ago when I was a postdoc at the University of Pittsburgh. And at that time, being a early stage investigator, trying to think about how do you build your career and what do you build your career on. These were some of the observations that I made as I reviewed the scientific literature. When you look at Black communities everywhere, irrespective of whether we're talking about the US, Africa, or the Caribbean, there seems to be this undue burden. And also the other observation that really stuck with me was the lack of representation in the studies that were published, really great studies, wonderful findings. But when you look at the study design and you look at the population that existed within that reported manuscript, you see very low representation of Black individuals. And so I asked myself a few questions. And the reason why I put this slide here is because for those who are early stage investigators, this was my way of trying to think through the process as to how to establish a career. And the three questions that I asked myself was, how do I play my part in this observation? Who do I collaborate with? and who is actually leading research in these populations. And as I asked those three questions, it was clear to me at that time that there was a need for establishing links and trying to build actually collaborative networks that didn't exist to be able to address the disparities in these populations. And so that was how AC3 was conceptualized, as a means for driving collaboration to address cancer among Black communities. And so the very first, I guess the first time that I had the opportunity to actually express the concept of what I thought AC3 could be occurred in Jamaica. And this was during a health scientific meeting there. We actually decided to have a satellite meeting of a few investigators who are interested in cancer in the region and just talk about the issues and what some of the concerns were. So there were 18 attendees from a number of countries listed here, from the Bahamas, Barbados, Guyana, Hawaii, Jamaica, Trinidad, and also the United States and St. Kitts. And we decided then at that time that we would establish this consortium as a means for collaborating. And one of the goals that we had was to be able to set this up in such a way that we have the ability to drive science and drive research, not just in the Caribbean and the United States, but also in Africa, and to connect those collaborations in the process. And so there were two main goals that came out of that meeting. We wanted AC3 to provide a forum for formalization and coordination of collaborations between investigators in the three geographic spaces. And we wanted to be able to do this by having meetings that would serve as a medium for these investigators to be able to not just present their data, but also formally discuss coordination of future collaborations and to work together to seek funding to support various types of studies that would address cancer risk and now also cancer outcome across these different populations. So over the years, we were able to become established as an NCI cohort consortium. And now our mission is that we are a research network that provides collaborations to study viral, genetic, environmental, and lifestyle factors of cancer risk and outcomes in all populations of African descent. And really, the goal here for us is to be able to advance the science of cancer prevention and control in these populations. And so hopefully at the end of this presentation, you'll be able to have not just a good idea or sense of what we've been able to do, but also perhaps try to see where there are gaps where we can continue to move forward and work towards this goal. So this is what AC3 is now currently, from 18 members back in 2007. Now we have over 200 members in many different countries, 12 countries in Africa, 17 countries in the Caribbean. And we also have members in the United States as well, who are primarily focusing on disparities research in Black populations. Many are at cancer centers, and there are others who are based at HBCUs and other types of institutions. And we've been working together as a network for the past 20 years. But who are we? The membership is quite diverse. We have investigators who are versed in various different disciplines, from epidemiology, molecular and cell biology, behavioral science, community health science. There are cancer registrars who are part of our consortium, folks who are trained in genetics and genomics, advocacy, and of course, medicine. We also have our membership open not just to investigators or researchers, but students are able to join and benefit from the exposure and the career professional advancement activities that we have ongoing. And we also do have members who are cancer survivors and advocates who have also joined. So, for us, the idea is that if you are passionate about addressing cancer in Black populations, it doesn't matter what your expertise is, you are welcome, because what we are trying to do here is to build a team science infrastructure that will allow us to be able to address this disease in many different levels and in many different ways. We are really blessed, I think, to have this group of investigators who have worked together for so many years and built relationships. And one of the things that we kind of have as a core value for us is the importance of building resources and capacity. It's not just about driving the science. That is important, and the impact from the science is critical to all of what we do. But at the same time, what matters for us also is who drives the science. We want to make sure, we've said this in many of our consortium meetings, that we want to always make sure that the Caribbean investigators are leading the science in the Caribbean, the African investigators are leading the science in Africa, and so on. So as part of all of our activities, while we are focusing on collaboration and science, we are also building resources, and we're building capacity, we're building skills, and we're building that opportunity to always promote and advance careers. So this is how we are organized. As you can imagine, with over 200 members, we do have to have some organizational structure. So we have, working alongside me, our two regional leaders. Dr. Samuel Gathere, who you will hear from today, is the regional leader for Sub-Saharan Africa. And Dr. Natalie Greaves is the regional leader for the Caribbean. And they work with me in tandem with our Research Ethics Review Committee. And this committee is really important because it helps with the governance, and it helps us also to maintain accountability within our group. This committee helps with setting guidelines, establishing standard operating protocols for collaboration, for data sharing, for how we disseminate research. There also are an important committee that helps with documenting and tracking all of the collaborative projects that we have ongoing. Because one of the things we want to make sure as part of a consortium is that we don't have, because there's so limited resources to be able to do this important work, what we don't want is duplication of effort. And so when studies are developed and conceptualized, if there is at any time a duplication of effort, we do everything that is possible to be able to allow folks to synergize and work together rather than compete. So in AC3, there is no competition, and there are no studies that are competing with each other. It's really about working cohesively in a way that we synergize and build on our differences as we move forward. So that committee really helps with that. We also have within the consortium working groups. So we currently have cancer site-specific working groups established. And the way that we have our leadership organized is that we make sure that there is representation from each of the 3 geographic spaces. Some of those working groups are fairly new, and we're still building to add leadership to those working groups. The earlier working groups that have been established are already committed. For example, the Head and Neck Cancer Working Group, you'll see Dr. Alain Mike, Dr. August, myself, and Dr. Gathere co-lead that. The Liver Cancer Working Group is in place. We have a Prostate Cancer Working Group and a Colorectal Cancer Working Group. More recently, we had previously a women's cancer working group, but we decided to split this out into cancer site specific. So those 2 working groups are still in progress in terms of building. But we currently have 2 breast leaders for the breast cancer working group and 1 for the cervical cancer working group, and we're continuing to build the leadership for those 2 groups. We do have a pathology working group, and it's a little bit different from the cancer site-specific working group, because the cancer site-specific working groups are ways for the consortium members to be able to come together virtually to be able to talk about different opportunities for collaboration, whether it's writing a manuscript or developing research ideas, writing grants together so that we can actually execute our studies. The pathology working group, on the other hand, is more of an educational and training sort of mechanism, where Dr. Nick Schillingford and Dr. Andrew Gashi co-lead that working group, and they provide opportunities for case reviews for pathologists, and many different types of topics are covered in the pathology space. And it's open not just for AC3 pathologists, but for any pathologist actually who wants to take the opportunity to participate in that educational initiative. Very new to AC3 is an advocacy working group that has been conceptualized but not fully launched. We currently have one advocate who is the US lead, Miss Bernice Mason, and we have partnered with the Greater Exodus Baptist Church, who has agreed to be the advocacy hub for us for the United States. So we are working now to build out this advocacy working group, and this will be another very unique working group that will allow us to be able to be stronger in the advocacy space, to be more supportive to our cancer survivors in the spaces where we are, and also to allow this as a means for us to disseminate the research findings that we generate from our science and our collaboration to the community. Community engagement has always been in the forefront in everything that we do, and I'll talk about that later on in a few other slides. So we're really excited about having the advocacy working group be developed at this time. How do we actually interact? So over the past 20 years, we have had several conferences. So we have organized scientific and training meetings. Most of these meetings have been supported by NIH conference funding. And we, started in 2007, that very first meeting that I told you about in 2018, where we had the 18 members. Since then, now our meetings are running with participants up to about 200. And we have over the years purposefully designed the theme of our conference to focus on those things that will allow us to continue to build, to be able to get to the point where we have established multinational cancer research studies. And so as we go through the slides, you'll get a taste of what is really covered within these meetings, but we tend to have pre-conference training workshops, there are professional development opportunities, and then of course the science and the community outreach component is integrated in all of these conferences. I'm going to hand off now to Dr. Gatheri, who will continue.
Thank you, Dr. Camille, and good morning and good evening. I think it's morning in the US and evening in most parts of Africa. So it's good to be here. I think just to continue on what Prof has been saying, part of the workshops we've had quite a number of training workshops and scientific workshops over the years. We just showcasing that we had the first AC3 conference outside the US in 2023 in Mombasa, outside the continent actually of the US and the Caribbean. That was the first in Africa. And we had a great time there with lots of presentations, lots of training and lots of workshops that went on there. And I think we'll be mentioning some of the details as we go on. So some of the trainings that we've had over the time, as we have been in AC3, for example, we'll probably not show every year, but for example, it's 2019. We had, community research navigator master trainer workshop. We had a molecular pathology training workshop, and we had research readiness workshop. And for example, this was great, the research readiness. Most of us, I think, from Sub-Saharan Africa had never had an NIH, biosketch, unless you were already doing some research with a collaborator. So this was a great time just to learn about how to do the biosketch. And in 2023, while we were in Mombasa, we went through the Implementation Science 101, Effective Scientific Writing and Publishing, Grant Writing Refresher Workshop, and then, of course, nuts and bolts of grant management and reporting. We've also had professional development and networking and roundtable discussions. Some of these that happened, I think this could have been 2023 and 2022. Team science, sharing, just learning to work together in team science, sharing responsibilities, as Prof has said, so that there's no really competition, but you're working in synergy, learning about literature review, building an effective mentorship team, balancing academia and clinical practice. That's one of the roundtable discussions. And then leveraging machine learning and AI for research. And then there's, of course, how industry and academia work together. So these were all roundtable discussions around the conference. Then one of the other things that's really was good around the COVID time, you remember COVID, we are all in our homes or offices, there was little interaction, but a great thing happened around this time in AC3 because we did have this mentor-mentee matching program, and then we had these Caribbean and African, investigators that are matched with US mentors to help them develop research program. And it was so the grant writing immersion program that we had, I think, 6 Caribbean and 5 African participants. And I'll be mentioning about what one of the outcomes of GWIP, we call it GWIP, because it did lead to some great things outside of the research work that we are doing, that we were able to develop more, and some of us did get funding out of that initial training that we went through. And again, in 2022, we did have team science, successful collaboration. We covered topics in how to build the teams, how to lead teams, how to communicate, conflict resolution, sustaining and strengthening the team, developing research action plan, and harnessing diversity. And then we did have some hubs that work together. And for example, the hub, you did see about the colorectal working group. This is where it started, in the hub. And now actually there's a project across some countries, I think Kenya, Malawi, and I think US and Caribbean, that's actually having a project in colorectal research. And you can see where the hub discussion started. We've also had experiential training in terms of research going on, but also people from this side of the continent coming into the US to learn and experience what's going on in the labs and in other spaces. We've had Lassina, I think Lassina Barrow from Burkina Faso there, and we also have Natalie from Namibia there. We had Martha from from Kenya, and Andrew from Kenya. And they visited different places, University of Florida, Clark Atlanta, and Fox Chase, to learn and just get different experiences.
So I'll take over from here in terms of what has happened with all of the activities. What we've now built is this partnership network where we have partnered with a number of churches. We've partnered with many institutions within AC3. We have so many institutions represented. We were not able to put them all on the list. But we've also developed partnership and alliances with other consortia, like the Prostate Cancer Clinical Trials Consortium and the Prostate Cancer Transatlantic Consortium and the African Caribbean Single Cell Network. In addition to that, we've established partnerships with multiple community-based organizations in an effort to be able to bolster our community efforts. These are just some examples of the partnerships. And then, of course, the funders. There are a number of funders that we have been fortunate to have been successful in gaining funding for some of our projects, but even having funders as collaborators as well. For example, one of the projects that you'll hear about, which was funded by Pfizer, and also by Merck. Both of those organizations are not just funders, but they're also actually actively collaborating. So over the years, we've really been able to form these alliances, which has helped us with allowing us to be able to accomplish a lot of the work that we've done. And to move into, just to give you a little bit of taste of some of the research and the science that is ongoing, one of the projects that's being ongoing by our prostate cancer working group involves the Ironman. And this is actually a partnership with the Prostate Cancer Clinical Trials Consortium, where AC3 has partnered with them to add on sites for their multinational project. So we have Dr. Anderson and Dr. Greaves, who lead the Barbados site. Dr. Badal leads in Jamaica. Dr. Harrison actually leads here at Fox Chase, and Dr. Wahenya in Kenya at the University of Nairobi. And this study focuses on a trial that looks at clinical outcomes for men with advanced prostate cancer. The other project that I'll highlight is our head and neck cancer working group collaboration. And this is stemming from an R01 that was funded to look at one of the DNA repair proteins that we've identified that seems to be contributing to poor survival for patients treated with radiation and platinum. And this particular marker is an ancestry-related marker. And so we have, as part of this R01, and we also were able to get an NCI Global Health Supplement to extend this to Kenya and Jamaica as well, to examine the role of our African ancestry in head and neck cancer outcomes. The third project that I will highlight is the partnership and collaboration that we have with Pfizer. And this is the Breast and Prostate Cancer Working Group of collaboration, which is focusing on genetic and molecular drivers of disparities for both prostate and breast cancer. You will see the leadership team here, and what I've done is sort of put some orange circles around the sub-Saharan Africa leaders to show their involvement. Each of these leaders are responsible for driving the science at the site. So we have sites represented in Kenya, in Namibia, Burkina Faso, and Benin. And in the Caribbean, we have sites in Barbados, Trinidad, Dominican Republic, Jamaica, and the Bahamas. And then we also do have sites in the US, here in Philadelphia, but also in Miami, Florida, in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, and also in Maryland, in partnership with the University of Georgia in Atlanta, Georgia. So this is actually our first transcontinental cohort of breast and prostate cancer patients established, and we're on the tail end of this project now, where we're really going into the data analysis phase. We were able to enroll over 1,700 breast or prostate cancer participants. We had 12 sites, 10 countries. And this has helped in many different ways, not just to address the scientific question that was proposed by Pfizer, but also we have been able to build capacity in each of the sites to allow for future research to continue. We have also had biospecimens banked that will allow the AC3 teams to have the opportunity to develop their own science questions and to drive their own research moving forward. So we're really proud of this particular project because it sets the stage for a lot more collaboration that we will have the opportunity for. We're also sequencing tumor tissues from these patients. So there will be genomic work, both DNA and RNA work that will be generated from these samples. And in addition to that, a very extensive epidemiological questionnaire, which not just addresses data needed for the social determinants of health, but many, many other types of data, a lot of psychosocial skills, too numerous to list. So there are so many opportunities here to be able to utilize this resource for future collaborations. The other study, which is newly about to be launched, is this new collaboration that we have with Merck. And this is through the Colorectal Cancer Working Group partnership. And of course, the Africa collaborators and site PIs are circled here. We have site teams in Benin, Rwanda, Malawi, Kenya, and Burkina Faso, along with Caribbean sites in Barbados and St. Lucia. And we also have 2 sites in the US, in Alabama and here in Philadelphia. And this particular study is a tissue-based study that will focus on metastatic colorectal cancer to examine some tissue biomarkers related to outcomes for that disease. There are a lot of opportunities that we still see down the road for us because as we, for the studies that I just described before, involved all of the 3 Black populations, Africa, Caribbean, and the US. But we do have 2 other studies that we would love to be able to expand so that we have that same representation. The first is the Life CAP3 migrant study, and this is a study that we have it's been ongoing for some time, co-led by myself, Dr. Ashing at the City of Hope Cancer Center, and Dr. Tola Reed in Jamaica at the University of the West Indies. We've established here a cohort of cancer-free individuals, both in Philadelphia and in Jamaica. And beyond just establishing the cohort, we have also built an integration platform that allows us to be able to harmonize data from multiple studies. And we were able to do that with the CAP3 cohort and the LIFE cohort. And we hope that this integration platform will actually allow us within AC3 to be able to harmonize even further other data sets that we may have, that investigators may have within the consortium, to be able to have a resource available to answer important research questions that would not just address cancer in the local context, but also cancer across different geographies when we think about migration and we think about how people move and their environmental exposures and what that plays in cancer risk and also ultimately outcome. The other project that we hope that we will someday be able to expand is this intramural collaboration that we have with the NCI, is the Sherlock Lung study. So we have 2 PIs, Dr. Anderson in Barbados and Dr. Chin in Jamaica, who are leading this project to focus on lung cancer genomics in never smokers, working with the NCI, who is actually the lead for this overall project. But hopefully the work that is generated from these efforts will help to build, allow us to be able to build on, to be able to expand and open up these opportunities for collaboration across to the Africa network as well. We have had the opportunity to put together large team science applications. We actually applied for one of the cancer disparities spores, but while we did not get funded, we really found that this was a very good learning opportunity for us as a consortium, because we were able to successfully organize ourselves in such a way that allowed us at least to be able to have an application put together, which in itself was quite a big deal. And it also allowed us to understand the importance of building strong multidisciplinary teams and going after these major grant opportunities. So while we didn't get funded, there was a lot that we took away from this experience and this exercise. The SPORE leadership was representative, where we had the AC3 leaders along with Fox Chase clinical and basic leaders. We were able to gain a lot of insight on how to develop and structure cores. It allowed us actually to strengthen our collaborative process. And I think it also allowed us to have a better understanding of how to work towards these broader scientific goals and in these complex grant mechanisms. So hopefully we're not giving up. We're gonna keep trying, but hopefully one day we'll be able to have a SPORE as well. But how are we really able to accomplish all of this? And I think this is one of the things that really underscores why at least I and hopefully other AC3 members will agree why we feel that AC3 is so unique and so special. And it really has a lot to do with how we build our team science and how we've been able to sustain the work. It's really about relationship. It's not just about the science. There are some core values that we carry as AC3 investigators. We value the importance of transparency. We value supportiveness in every single way. And in simple and complex way, when we talk about supportiveness, we are talking about as supportive as an investigator in Africa sending an email to say, hey, I need to find the full text of this PDF article, but I don't have access to it. Can you get it for me? And we're able to do those types of things, and vice versa. So it's really about supporting each other in as little or as big as an effort as is needed. It's about fairness and trust. It's about advocacy, and it's also about humility. I think one of the things that our investigators recognize is that we're doing this as a team and for the team. And so many of our leaders really recognize that it's not for their personal benefit, but it's for the team benefit. Because when we come together and work synergistically, we have so much more of an impact in the outputs that we produce. And all of us are very committed to the cause and also committed to teamwork. So I think those are some of the core values that we carry that I believe is the secret to our success in having this sustainable network for so long. And I think it is reflected because we were really pleased to be able to receive the AACR's Team Science Award for that very reason, because of the accomplishments that we have had in 2023. Dr. Gatheri.
Yeah, thank you, Camille. I think I just mentioned quickly so that maybe you can have some time for some comment. Some of the impacts and benefit, in terms of Africa collaboration. I think I saw Dr. Charles here. One of the projects is leading Ironman has really boosted the research capacity at the University of Nairobi. And I remember when we visited the department chair that time, he told us that it was the first grant to be awarded to the Department of Surgery directly, apart from the subs from other departments. So that is a great thing that has gone on. And in fact, I think Charles is called the Ironman. He walks around. And there are many other projects that have come on from that. Go on, Camille. The other thing, especially from ACGR, we mentioned about ACGR. One, we've learned about inter-country collaboration with different, countries. For example, Pfizer has quite a number of countries from Benin and Burkina Faso and Namibia and Kenya. So there's a lot of working together within Africa. And Mark, for example, expanded. We got, I think, Malawi came on board, and there's something going on in Malawi. And out of that, we were just trying to get a ballpark number that the African sites there, where the African PIs, there's about $1.6 million that have come in through the projects, including the clinical trials of this period. So this is probably not as much as Caribbean or in the US, but a great start because we've learned much more. Before, even outside of funding, as I'll mention in the next slide. So the other thing, for example, just working together, fostering local collaboration. The one I can give is ACGR Pfizer. When it was prostate and breast, we decided to split the two PIs, one for breast in Kemri, the other one for prostate cancer from the University of Nairobi. And that is what we try to do, where we think we can split and have, site PIs for different portions so that everyone can learn and can be part of the project. Go on, Camille. Yeah, the personal, we've also had personal development, advancement, professional development. You can see Avion there from Caribbean got a foundation funding in 2020. Simone Badal has a lot of funding, the K43, part of AC3 in Jamaica. myself, I got a funding. This is out of GWIP. I said grant writing immersion project that we wrote in 2020, 2021. And out of that project, I was able to develop it and seek for funding and get funding. Esther there, I think is also online, got some funding out of that process. And Charles decided that whatever he worked on during GWIP, he will proceed on to PhD. I think he should be graduating this year. So there's that benefit in terms of building our own skills and advancing our own careers that has come, through AC3 collaboration. The other thing people have talked about a lot about publication, as you see that as AC3 African collaborators and investigators have been involved, there's also growth in terms of the publication role. If you look at 2007, 2011 on your left, you can see that the African or Caribbean authorship, first or second or corresponding, was down, and that has increased over the last few years, so that now there are more African Caribbean who was first or second corresponding authors, and this shows the growth and that we've had in terms of being in this part of Africa. And in the head and neck, for example, we are doing a book, Head and Neck Cancer Disparities in Epidemiology and Patterns of Care. And this is just joining, there's a lot of learning, working on different chapters, different people, different timings. And I think there are two, I think Sabina and I think Simone Bada from Jamaica have done book chapters, and I think there's a lot that is going on. There's another group, I think they want to work on a book. I think prostate, they're working on something, colorectal are working on something. So I think being part of AC3 and having the network and the resources that are across the network has helped to build skills and advance our careers in this manner. So thank you very much. I think we've had all these great people, the Pharma, American Cancer Society, Fox Chase, where AC3 is based, the NIH, of course, and NCI that have been part of what we've been doing in AC3. And we thank you very much for listening to us. And over to you, Camille. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Gatheri. So that is the end of our presentation, and we're happy to answer any questions.
Thank you so much for this very brilliant session. So as we are waiting for questions and comments, I just have two questions or probably comments. And I think I was asking that question before we started. And when the flyer came out, I got a question for some people who wanted to know when and where the next conference is going to be. And I think you said that was Barbados.
Yes, we are aiming for Barbados. We do not have the definitive dates yet, but sometime towards the end of this year.
Okay.
And yeah, so we should be releasing that very shortly. The save the date.
So a question is, please, how does one become a student member? And also, what does being a member of your organization entail?
Student members are always welcome. They can reach out. I think our email addresses were on the slide deck, but you could also go to our website, ac3online.org, and just send us an email, and we will connect with you. Typically what we do for membership is we do have a membership database. So we have an online form that we ask for you to complete. This will give us an idea, number one, of your area of research interest, your skill sets, where you want to focus your efforts in terms of cancer site specific efforts, or what you also have to bring in terms of collaboration. And that's pretty much it. The database is there to allow us to be able to know what expertise we have within the consortium.
So another question is, from Lineal who wants to know how his institution can be part of the AAC3.
So it's not institutions that are members, it's people. And that's really important, right? Because as people join, then that's how the institutional network works. You can, if you are interested, you can reach out to any one of our regional co-leads, myself, Dr. Gatheri, or Dr. Greaves. And of course, we would meet with you and give you a little bit more information about AC3 and how we operate, and we'll go through the membership process that way.
So the thing is, in this world of today, right? And I mean, we are more global. The world is smaller than it was 10, 15 years ago. Yet, we have a lot of rhetoric going on. And one thing I have seen where I sit is we still continue to see underrepresentation of Black people, Black patients, Black clinicians, Black researchers in everywhere. So this is the 14th session that we are having, and it's still the same consistent informational outcome. So I will hope that we can actually work on a partnership with AORTIC. I say that AORTIC is not one of your partners yet. And I will speak on behalf of AORTIC that I think that one of the outcome of this is just going to be us thinking about a partnership amongst our organizations and to be able to collaborate. So Omar, writing under me, Omar, you're making me look like I'm confused. So I'm speaking and typing. No, that's not me. That's Omar. That's the Vice President of East Africa. So he's asking about any grant opportunities offered by AC3 with research team on African or Black patients.
So I think, yeah, we often get that question. So AC3 is not a funder, and we don't have funding. We seek funding as all other investigators. We write grants to other funders to get funding. But through those efforts, that is how our AC3 researchers get the funding to be able to do the science. So it's about working together to go for funding. So no, we don't have, unfortunately, we're not that blessed to have funds to be able to disseminate.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions or comments? All right, as we're waiting for questions or comments, I hope no one raised their hands. One of the housekeeping things again is we have our Best of ASCO conference going to be July 10th and 11th in Abuja, Nigeria. Please, that's going to be coming up on our website. Please plan to attend because it's going to be a very powerful event. So during ASCO and also in AACR, we have the AORTIC networking reception that is going to be happening. And right now, especially the ASCO networking reception is really very open. If anyone wants to have a presentation or discussion, it's just a 2-hour event for us to be able to discuss it. And I think that we have to start thinking about funding, right? Because also, yeah, sorry, PALOP. PALOP is also holding 22 to 24th of April in Maputo, Mozambique. And also it's going to be coming up on our website. So I think one more last question that I had, or probably briefing you really, is that I'm speaking to the AC3 members that are on this session. AORTIC is a Pan-African organization, and we are as old as time. I think we were created, founded in the 1980s by powerful founders. 2 of them are late and 2 still remains with us today. And I would say that it's one of, or the only, right, Pan-African organization that has been able to function in the 54 countries. We have over, 2,000 members. And we have biennial conferences. Our last conference was in Tunisia last year, November. The next one is going to be in Kenya, 2027. So in the middle of that, we started the Best of ASCO conference every year, and we try to meet in different parts of the continent. So I hope that members on the AC3 can join us. So I think that this is a time where we have to be much more collaborative than ever, especially Black people over the world. Because again, in this time, it's a lot of discrimination, emboldened discrimination against us, and we have to stand together in this time. So as we are rounding up this, the next time in February is going to be St. Jude Hospital is going to present. Please, we have a very good attendance today. Please, I would hope that you can join us again February the 3rd on Tuesday, 2026. And anyone that is interested in hosting this event, so it's not just going to be only me, please let me know so you can be the next host for subsequent sessions. All right. So thank you again for everyone that joined. And really, I also appreciate Dr. Camille Regine and Dr. Samuel Getter for being the presenters for this session. Please, next month, join us same first Tuesdays every month for us to start having discussion as far as this. We are going to share the link and put it on your calendars. Please. So thank you all as I call the meeting towards an end. Thank you. Happy New Year. And I'll see you next month, February 3rd. Bye-bye for now. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.